So just think about this. Your first love or someone who you deeply loved came back into your life after several decades. Is this going to be reunited bliss or is it going to be a bust? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for joining my channel, Ask Lois the Relatable Therapist. My name is Lois Godot, and this channel is all about promoting positive relationships, whether it's family relationships, friendship relationship, co-worker relationships, any type of relationship, promoting positive relationships. And I get my inspiration from reality TV, from news reporting, or anything that I see on the internet or in the news that's going to help me help you have those positive family dynamics. And today we're heading over to Real Housewives of Potomac. And so before we get started, let me read my disclaimer. This video is protected by the Fair Use Act of 1976, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. So yeah, I was listening to the Carlos King show, Reality with the King, and you can go ahead and go to his YouTube channel. He did a podcast on Mia Thornton. Let me put the people up that we're talking about. Mia Thornton, she's on the Real Housewives of Potomac, and her husband, Gordon, she's reunited with someone she knew in her teen years, and his name is Incognito. And so Carlos King did the podcast because Mia and her husband just recently separated. She made it official in September of 2023. And so a little later, her and Incognito, they posted something on Instagram that she was in a relationship. And so they got the, social media buzzing. And so I thought I'd just talk about that. And so what Carlos King did, he did a podcast. And on the podcast, we really got to know who Incognito really is. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that. And so those are the people that we're going to be talking about. And so when the podcast started, you can tell this guy, Incognito, you can tell he is just enamored with Mia. He's just talking about her, all positive things about her. He said they met when they were in high school. They didn't go to the same high school, but they went to the high school in the same vicinity, but they worked at a mall. She worked at the mall, he worked at the mall, and that's where he met her many years ago, several decades ago, because Mia is 39. And so I'm guessing he's around her age, maybe 1 or 2 years. He didn't say if she was a senior and he was a sophomore. He didn't say. He said they were both in high school. So they met, they started a relationship, and they both moved to, I think it was South Carolina, but they moved in together and they were together for 3 years. There was some miscommunication, he said, between the two of them. So they broke up and he hadn't seen her in years. Although they kept in contact on social media, birthdays, and he would comment on pictures and Instagram. So they kept in contact that way, but they hadn't been together because even though he said he still cared for her, he still loved her, but he knew she had a life and he respected that. And she went on. She went on to marry one person, and then she married her current husband that she's with now. And so it had been many years. And he even said, Incognito said that he saw her, he hadn't seen her in 10 years. And when he saw her, their eyes met and he still felt those same feelings again. And so fast forward, he met her again. I guess he was talking to her. And then she told him that he was separated from his child's mother because he has a 3-year-old. And Mia was going through a separation with her husband, Gordon. And so they kind of talked, got together. 3 months later, here we are. They're in a relationship. When Carlos King asked him to tell him a little bit how Mia was back then, and he said she's from a girl to a woman, and he said she's the same. And so I kind of want to land there because she's not the same. Mia is 39. She's 39, or she'll be 39. And if you met in high school, we're talking about 18, 19 years old. That's 2 decades. That's 2 decades. And people change. People are not the same that they were in high school. I mean, you can just even sit here and think about it. What you liked in high school You don't even like now. Your values change, your personality change, your preferences change. You have changed because your experiences has evolved you into the person that you are now. And so when I heard him say that, I was thinking, I wonder if he's thinking this is the same girl that he met because now she's not. All the experiences that she went through, it has changed her. And I'm not saying if it changed her for the better or for the worse, but it has changed her and she's not that same person. And so I was wondering if he's looking through rose colored glasses and thinking that, hey, everything's going to be the same way it was. One of the reasons he said they broke up, it was a miscommunication. At first, he really didn't go into what that miscommunication was, but then he kind of talked about the miscommunication was the man that she's married to now, Gordon, he knew her back then, and he put a car in his name for her. And Incognito said that, some mail came to the house that had Gordon's name on it. And he realized that he had bought a car in her name and she hadn't let him know. And so he said that kind of, led to the miscommunication. So they separated. But in the meantime, she didn't marry Gordon. She married someone else. And then after that person, she married Gordon. So she's not the same person because she's been married twice. And so I was just looking at that and I said, a lot of times what happens is when people see people from the past and they're thinking, oh, that's so and their memory of them is from the past. And sometimes they think they're going to be the same way they were when I knew them back then. And then you get into a relationship and find out this is not the same person. This is a totally different person. I mean, Incognito even said that, even though she's separated from her husband and they're dating, he says when she gets a divorce, he would like to marry her. And I'm like, but you don't even know her. You don't even know her, the Mia now. You know the Mia from back then, but you don't know the Mia now. And so I kind of wanted to kind of talk about how that relates to today because, you hear it all the time that people reconnect, reunite with people that they broke up with, and then they have an opportunity to get back with them. Some people it's a success story. Some people it's not a success story. But I wanted to look at some ways that when you rekindle a relationship, what can make it work out? What can make it work out? And so one of the ways is to agree to leave the past in the past. You're not going to forget what happened, but you have to forgive what happened. Let's just say if someone cheated on you, you have to forgive that they cheated on you. You're not going to forget it, but you have to forgive in order to move on and have a fresh start. You have to realize that you were not the same person that you were back then. And I know a lot of times I'll hear people, when they're telling people, describing people, they talk about things that happened years ago, decades ago, because every 10 years is a decade. And they talk about, oh, you know how so and so used to be. People make mistakes. People make decisions that probably now they would look at it and say, that wasn't the best decision. Even in my life, I can say I've made decisions early on in my life that now I wouldn't make those decisions. And so when you're reuniting and rekindling relationship, you can't hold on to the past. You can't say, oh, I remember when you did this, or else it's not going to work out. Another thing is you have to know that you don't know this person. Don't think you already know this person because again, decades ago, you were a different person. We're talking about she's 2 or more decades because like I said, she's 39. He said they met in high school. High school, even 19, some people are still in high school. That's 2 decades. Two decades since he's known her, and a lot has changed. So don't assume that you know the person. Take the time to get to know the person. Say, you know what? I'm going to throw away those thoughts that I had about who you were. Let me see who you are now. That's a way to be able to make sure that this rekindling don't turn into a bust, but it turn into bliss. And the last thing I just want to say is that make sure that you're getting together for the right reasons. Sometimes people get together for the wrong reasons. One reason it could be maybe I just broke up, or maybe my spouse has passed and I don't want to be alone. And so you get together with someone because you don't want to be alone. That's not a reason to rekindle a relationship. You can get a dog or a cat, or you can spend more time with your friends. But to say, I don't want to be alone, well, you're not really getting to know the person. You're just feeling an emotional need. Another way people get together is because of finances. Hey, I can't make this alone. I need somebody to help me out with this. And so you get with somebody so they can help you with your finances. Now, again, if that's what you guys agree on, that we're getting together to help with the finances, that's one thing. But if you think you're rekindling something and you're really not, the other person has a different thought about what's going on, you're getting together for the wrong reason. And another reason people get together is because, you know what? This is familiar. I'm comfortable with this. I don't want to go out and find anybody new. So they go back and get someone that they not necessarily wanted to be with, but it's familiar and it's comfortable. And so you get together with them. And again, it doesn't work out. So we're trying to figure out how can you rekindle a relationship and let it be blissful instead of a bust. One of the things that I was looking at is that both of them, Incognito and Mia, they have kids now. When they first started out, they didn't have any kids. And so they can spend unlimited time together. But when you have kids, you have to make sure you spend time with your kids. That's something to consider. We have kids now. The second thing to consider is that you're bringing your children into this relationship with this person. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be a loss for your child because they already have a loss with you not being in the other relationship that they were used to you being in. Incognito with his child's mother, Mia with Gordon. You've moved from that relationship. And as much as you try to make it the best that you can, you don't live in that house. So it's a loss of some things for your children. If you get together in another relationship and it doesn't work out, that's going to be another loss for your kids. Because a lot of people, what they do is when they meet someone, right away they introduce the kids. They want to give this resemblance of a family. So I would suggest taking it slow before you just jump right in when you start to rekindle the relationship. Take time to know the person. Take time before you start introducing kids into it to see where this is going to kind of go. I wrote a book. It's called Take a Deep Breath, Relax Because You Got This. And it's all about blended families. And I want to put the link down below. And I wrote this book because I'm in a blended family. And a lot of times it's things that you don't foresee coming. And in this book, it talks about bonding with stepchildren, the expectation, vulnerability in your relationship, parenting styles, and a whole lot more. Because a lot of times when people start in a new relationship, I know sometimes our culture, the African American culture, doesn't like to call it blending a family, but you really are blending a family because you're taking two families and you're blending together and you're bringing the kids into it. You really don't need to look at it like you're just dating because you're not just dating, but you're blending a relationship. And so this book, Take a Deep Breath, Relax Because You Got It, it has been instrumental in helping a lot of my clients go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and iTunes. Tell me about your relationship. Have you been in a relationship where you rekindled a romance, a lost love, and you got together? How did that work out? How do you think this one's going to work out? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's start this conversation and talk about it. I'm loving the comments that I'm receiving. I want you to go ahead and first of all, subscribe to this channel because it's all about relationships, positive relationships. Give me a comment and share it. If this is something that you can relate to, just write in the comments, I can relate. I can relate. If you don't want to write, anything long, just write, I can relate. And so we want to get this conversation going and started. And here's another video that's going to help you on that journey to having positive relationships.